Quite a long time ago, we were in El Salvador doing these mission trips, and there's one object lesson where we're working with little kids that they love. It just requires special attention, and that is a thing called flash paper. It's this paper that burns very hot, very bright for like a half a second and leaves no trail or trace behind. It's really cool when you watch it because they just toss it up and there's fire, and then, well, there's not. And so I had been trained how to use this, and I was one of the lucky ones that got to do this object lesson over and over and over again. And so we were going to different communities, different churches, and we were doing these different Bible stories and doing these object lessons. And it was the same thing day in and day out. And after a while, you kind of get tired. You kind of get weary, and we were approaching one of the last ones, and they asked me to do the object lesson again. And so I went up, and each and every time the routine is the same. We talk about how God came to die, Jesus came to die and take away our sins, and how he does it, and it's complete. And so I take the piece of paper and I crumple it up and I drop it to the side, and I'm like, well, is it gone? And they say, no, it's still there, and put it in the pocket. No, it's in your pocket. And then we say that the idea is that Jesus is the only one that can completely wipe away your sin. And when you give it to him, and what I do is I crunch it up into a little ball and leave a little tail, and then light it and toss it. All has to be done very quickly. And you have to be careful because this gets very hot and it can be dangerous. And so over and over, I would do this trick. And, the first couple of times I was super careful because I don't want to hurt myself or others. I would launch it far away from people. And then as time went on, I started launching it closer and closer to the crowd. So they got more of the intensity of it and everything. And we're here at the last day, one of the last times that I'm performing this. And I am tired. I'm sleepy. I'm probably grumpy. And I've done this trick over and over, and I know how to do it, and I'm so used to it. And I sit there and I explain it, and then I take the lighter and I light it, and I crumple it up into a little ball, have the little tail of it sticking out, and I light it, watch the tail go up, and then I just freeze. And I'm watching as this thing, and granted, in my head, I'm frozen for forever, but in real life, it was like a second. But the fact is, it was a second too late, and I'm watching this thing, and I go, oh no, I should toss this. And then, instead of tossing it up, I toss it out. See, where we were working at this point was a basketball court, and they had these like step bleachers, these stone bleachers that they had set up for the kids. And the kids were on these stone bleachers that went up. And here I am, and I've now grown so accustomed, so used to this thing, I just space out. It's not something that I'm being careful of anymore. I toss it out. And even in the video, somewhere there is a video that exists of me doing this trick. And you watch me as I throw it out and then immediately bring back my hand and go, I knew it was burning, and I knew I needed to throw it. And so I did. I threw it out, and it goes towards all of these little kids, and they're watching it, and it's getting closer and closer, and the fireball is getting closer and closer, and then it goes right in here someone's face. Not close enough to burn them, but in that second I go, oh my goodness, I killed a little kid. And everyone sits there for a minute or two in disbelief, and then they start clapping. And to them it was an awesome trick, and in my head I realize I have this dangerous thing that I've grown so accustomed to, this powerful thing that I almost injured people with because I wasn't taking it seriously. We've been talking about the book of Malachi and the prophecies that were given in the book, and basically God was addressing the way that people were mistreating him. How people, especially the priests, were forgetting about him and putting him off to the side. They did it in just everything that they did. When they brought their sacrifices, they were bringing their leftovers and their trash, and they were just like, God will be happy with it. They were doing it in the way that they worshiped God and what they were giving him. But what I want to talk about today is the one thing that God hit on that overall they had forgotten about or grown used to, or maybe they just forgot about, and that was his holiness. I am honored all over the world And there are people who know how to worship me all over the world, who honor me by bringing their best to me. They're saying it everywhere. God is greater. This God of the angel armies. All except you. Instead of honoring me, you profane me. See, he's writing to these people, and he's to his own people, he's saying, people all over the world, they hear about me, they know me, they respect me, they are in awe of me. I mean, going all the way back to when Moses was leading the Israelites out of Egypt, there were armies that even though they fought them, they were still fearful of this God. When Joshua was going into the promised land, he had certain people that were coming against him, and certain kings were like, well, their God is a God of the hills, so we ain't going to go to the hills. We'll go to the valley and attack them, because they knew their God, our God, would win in the hills. Except they were still wrong, but they still respected him enough to say, well, if he fights good there, we're not going there. In fact, when they went to Jericho, Rahab said, I know what your God can do, and I want to be saved. I don't want to be destroyed with these people. They knew God, and what God is saying here is these people, even these people that don't fully believe in me, they respect me. And yet you, my own people, you don't honor me. You don't treat me as I deserve. You profane me. See, the others knew how powerful God was, even if he was not the God that they followed, and they respected him for that. And yet God is talking to his own people saying, even those that don't believe in me respect me. And here you are, claiming to worship me, and you treat me this way. You don't honor me. You don't honor my power, my might, or who I am. You forget about me and you push me to the side. I mean, he's saying his own priests could care less about him. And I think as we're reading this, I think it's important that we read this and apply it to our lives. I think we need to pay attention to this warning so that we don't make the same mistake that these people did. In essence, the same mistake I ran into with the flash paper. See, God loves us, and he cares about us, and he wants a close relationship with you. But sometimes we dwell on that and we think about that. And like the flash paper, we kind of just take it for granted. And I'd gotten so used to it, I forgot how powerful and how mighty this fire still is. And it took me a half a second to realize I kind of made a mistake because I took it for granted. And in the same way, we can become so accustomed to God that we treat him on the bottom rung of our friendships instead of realizing how powerful and how mighty and how worthy God really is. And then we're stuck giving him our leftovers or giving him no time at all. We forget to treat him with the respect and the awe that he deserves. And so today, really quickly, I want to share with you guys, how do we keep God where he belongs? How do we treat God with that holiness and that respect that he deserves and still have that relationship with him? And so I asked a friend, a former student of mine, to share a story from her life. So if you would, take it away, Erica.
Hello, my name is Erica. I live in Florida, which is where I met Josh. And first of all, I just want to say thank you so much for having me and for listening to me. I hope that what I say is an encouragement to you all, and let's just get started. So Josh asked me to talk about a time where God really revealed himself to me, where God showed me how awesome he is, where it was a moment in my life that I just kind of took a step back and recognized his glory and his power in my personal life. And a couple things pops up, but I'm going to share one with you. So I want to talk about the moment when I kind of switched churches and came to the church where I currently am now, where I am serving now. I am actually employed at a church here in Florida, and I serve as a worship leader. So that basically means that I sing on stage on the weekends and do little small tasks behind the scenes during the week. Talk to volunteers, help with rehearsals and all that fun stuff. And it really is an honor to work at my church. I love it. I'm also heavily involved in the college ministry because I am in college. I am going to be a senior, so heading on my last year. I'm super excited. But yeah, so basically the journey to get that I took to get to where I am now was kind of hard. I was at the church where I met Josh at, which I'm so thankful to that church. I have nothing bad to say about it. I really learned so much about God and who he is and his character, and just found out his love for me. And it was honestly a miracle because I didn't grow up going to church. I was never somebody who my parents forced me to church. This was completely on my own, where I decided to go to that old church where I met Josh. And so a couple years in, it was probably 3 years into going to that church, I just got this calling from God, like, you need something more. You need to move churches specifically, and I have something more for you, is what God said. And so I was like, I don't know about this. Like, I know everybody at my church. Everybody knows me. I'm very comfortable. I don't want to leave. But that feeling, that gut feeling in my spirit didn't go away. And so one day I listened to it and I decided to go church shopping, as I used to call it. Went to a bunch of different churches, nothing really felt right, and finally I landed at the church that I'm at now, and I just felt at home. It just felt really different and really, really good. And people were loving and kind and welcoming. And so I decided, let me just give this thing a shot. So I started going every Sunday, but it still took me a couple months to really get plugged in. And once I did, I joined the tech team as a camera operator. So I stood in the back of the church and manned a camera basically for our Sunday services that were streamed online. And then I quickly joined the worship team also. And this was all volunteer. I wasn't paid for any of this. This was just my way to serve the church. And I fell in love. I remember distinctly having a conversation with my mom, actually saying, Mom, I don't know, I really like these people, but I feel like I'm not gonna fit in, or it just won't feel the same as my old church. They won't have my same sense of humor. It won't feel the same. And honestly, I remember having that conversation, and very quickly, probably within the next couple weeks, I remember having another conversation with my mom saying, Mom, remember that conversation we had before about me not thinking I would fit in? Well, I love these people, they are family, and I wouldn't want to be anywhere else. And so that just really showed me like that prompting from God to leave that first church, to come to this church that I'm at now, like, was real. And it wasn't just something in my head like, oh, I want to leave, I don't know. And God was faithful through the whole entire thing. He really did show me the friends and the family that I needed, and it was super, super cool. And although that was one specific moment in my life, I have way more smaller moments. And what I mean by that is I am a full believer that God is in the details. He is in the friendships that I have. He is in nature. I see him so much in nature. When I look at a body of water, I know that God is there. I know that Jesus' spirit is with me. He is in conversations that I have. He is in acts of kindness. He is in the act of being patient. So he is everywhere, and he just always surprises me every single day. There's always something that you can see that God is in if you're just looking. So if you're looking and if you're open, he's gonna reveal himself to you, no question about it. So I hope that this was an encouragement, and I'm so, so thankful to be here with all of you guys. And yeah, thanks for having me. Bye, guys.
Thank you for that, Erica. So right to the point, what are 2 things that we can do to give God the honor and the respect and still maintain that strong relationship? The first one is don't lose the awe. I know that sounds weird, but I mean, if you think about it, when you first get a new bicycle, I mean, how many of you guys remember that? You got a new bicycle. I remember when I got mine and it had these nice training wheels, and to me it was like really this amazing beast of fireworks. It was this amazing beast of a bicycle. It even had those little things in the tire spokes. So when I went, it went ting, 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 ting. It was really cool. I know I was an awesome person back then. But when you get a new bike, you are blown away. You're like, this thing is amazing. And for that first week, you treat it so carefully because it is this amazing thing. More fireworks. Your first car. If you are given a car when you first get your license, you can't believe that you are driving this. And maybe it was just me, but I know a lot of people, that first week or so, you are driving it so carefully. Hands at 10 and 2, I think that's what it was. You're checking your rear view mirrors, you're doing all that. You are driving the speed limit for that first week or so. Maybe the first hour or two. But then, after a little bit, it just becomes whatever. We start breaking the speed limit. Oh, that was a stop sign I just flew through. Or, that bike that we were super careful of, made sure the tires were pumped every time, starts coming back with mud on it, and starts getting all this beat up and these scratches and everything. It becomes this whatever thing. In the same way, there is this awe that comes with knowing God and realizing who He is. And oftentimes, as I said, sometimes we forget that or we put that in the back. But I want you guys to think about that. The same God that created the world, the same God that parted the Red Sea, the same God that went to blind people and gave them sight, and dead people and rose them again, is the same God that loves you today and wants a relationship with you. In fact, we know every moment that we have messed up. Have you ever messed up and no one caught on? You tripped and fell and then you looked and no one saw? We know all of our mess ups. We know all of our screw ups. And the truth is, God does as well. And yet, knowing all that, He says, I still want a relationship with you. Knowing all the times that we fail Him, and yet He still says, I love you. This great and powerful being, and yet, as great and mighty as He is, He still talks to us. He still guides us. He still cares about some of the smallest details of our life and leads us when we let Him, like He did with Erica. One way to not mistreat God or to not treat Him with the respect that or to treat Him with the respect that He deserves is to remember those moments. Remember those moments and those times where He did amazing things for you. Remember those moments and times where you were just blown away by the fact that this God I'm reading about in the Bible cares and loves me so much. Think about it. If you had a celebrity that you approached on the street, most of us would want to take selfies. Most of us would want to, let everyone know that we just met this important person, especially if they wanted to take a picture with us. And here God, over all things, the creator of all, is saying, I want a relationship with you, which should mean so much more to us. Don't lose that awe. Treat Him always like you would that celebrity. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I get to spend time with you. Oh my goodness, I can't believe I get to come to your house and worship you. Oh my goodness, I cannot believe that you would even want to talk to me. Don't lose the awe for God. And the second thing is to live out of gratitude, not expectation. You're going on a missions trip and you're like, I don't know how I'm going to afford it. It's, $1,000, $2,000, $3,000, depending on where you're going. It could be a crazy amount of money. And then a check comes in the mail from someone you don't know well. A check that you weren't expecting. And it covers your entire trip. We are beyond grateful because we're like, I was not expecting that. I did not even know that was going to happen. It came out of nowhere. And so we live out of that gratefulness. Or your birthday comes around and your parents get you a nice birthday gift. We're happy with it. We're excited about it. But the truth is, a lot of us, we expected that gift because every year they get us something. They're our parents. It's their job to get us a gift on our birthday. See, two great gifts there. One, we are grateful for because we didn't expect it. And another one, we're happy for, but we expected it. One is expected, and so we don't treat it as special as the one that we get that we don't deserve. The one that we don't deserve, we are beyond grateful for. And the truth is, we need to approach God in that way, with gratefulness, not an expectation of a genie per se. I mean, a lot of times we view God, sadly, as that genie. He's just there for someone to make wishes for, and then we expect it to happen. But to remember instead that I don't deserve his love, and yet he has given it to me. To remember that I don't deserve anything else that he will ever do for me. And yet, even if he never does a single thing for me, and the fact that he has saved me and he has loved me, he has done more than I could ever think or imagine. That should make us beyond grateful. But too many times I have made the mistake of approaching God out of expectancy, saying, well, God, this needs to happen. You need to do this. And I made that mistake of expecting instead of living out of gratefulness for all that he has done. To remember how powerful and mighty he is, and not just expect stuff from him because he's our God and our genie, but to realize this mighty, powerful being has already done so much more than I could ever think or imagine. And if you never gave me another thing, God, you have already blessed me beyond what I deserve. I mean, think about this. You are loved. You are forgiven. You have those that care for you. You have your provisions being met. We are already blessed beyond what we really deserve. And when we start being grateful for what he has done and living out of that gratefulness, we move from expecting handouts from God to respecting, honoring, and being thankful for every small blessing that he provides and every small thing he does for us. See, we're surrounded by church, and some of you guys have grown up in the church. Some of you guys have been in the church so much longer than I have. I mean, even now, during this whole coronavirus thing, you are a click away from hundreds of churches. I mean, maybe some of you guys already started watching mine, and you're like, okay, I'll catch this later. And you already checked out like 4 other churches. And if so, hey, that's great. I'm glad I made your list. Many of us, we've grown up in the church and we've been around it and we've been around God so much, so many hours in church and in youth group and in children's church and all of this stuff. Maybe you've been in the church more hours than you've been in school. The scary thing is that sometimes because we are around so much church and spirituality, we start losing the focus of God. And we start going through these motions, and what happens is we run the risk of being like his own children were, saying, you know, God, you should be okay with my trash. God, you should be okay and happy with these scraps that I give you. Or those people that completely forgot about him and put him to the side. And the truth is, he deserves so much more than that. If we're not careful, we can forget about him. Instead, I challenge you to be in awe of him. What has he done in your life? How mighty and how powerful is he that he has showed up in your life in different ways? I had Tim share a couple weeks ago and Erica share just in small ways how God made himself real in their life. How is God making himself real in your life? What are some stories from your life that remind you that, oh my goodness, God, you listen to me, you hear me, you provide for me, and make us stand in awe of him? And then I challenge you to live in gratitude. Don't expect handouts from God. Don't just go up to God and say, well, I expect you to do this. I expect you to provide for this. But instead, look at every blessing, every provision that he has given you and realize you don't deserve it. I don't deserve all the love that he has showered on me, all the times that he has forgiven me, all the times that he has cared for me, and yet he has, and it should make me overflow with gratefulness for what he has done. And when we do that, we treat him with the holiness and the reverence and the love that he deserves. So God, I pray that you would help us. Help us if we are going through the motions. Help us if we have become so accustomed to you that we have lost that awe of how great you are, how powerful you are, how mighty you are, and yet you want to be with us. Help us if we have gone from gratitude to expectation from you, that we just expect you to do these things. We expect you to be a genie that answers our requests, and then when we're done, and we can walk away. I pray that you would help us to find those moments, those times, remember those instances where you revealed yourself to us, where you did mighty things in our life, where you spoke to us in ways that no one else will ever understand, Father. Those moments where you have blessed us and shown us that love that we don't deserve, that we would live out of that awe and that gratefulness, and that you wouldn't be something that we push to the side. That even in this time of the coronavirus and being at home and everything that's going on in the world, that you wouldn't become something that we just forget about. But during this time, we would find our walk and our life and our passion and our hunger for you grow so much deeper, Father. I praise you and thank you in your name. Amen. All right, guys. Well, if you haven't heard, this coming Sunday, we are doing a soft open of the church, following different things of like the 6-foot rule and all that kind of stuff. So if you guys are interested, make sure your families are signing up right now, because we only have certain spots available. They're just doing reservations for the big service. So if you guys are interested, sign up for that. And then hopefully, God willing, maybe in the next couple of weeks or so, we'll be able to do something with Epic. For a lot of you guys, it was great seeing you dropping off the donuts, having you guys meet Ava. For those of you guys that missed us, we still love doing that for you guys. We do miss each and every one of you guys. And I know we had the flat tire issue, but we still have about 12 stops, 12 or so students that we have to deliver donuts to, hopefully next week. So you guys have not been forgotten about. We do love you. We miss you guys. We cannot wait to see you. All right. Bye-bye.